Hello, fellow truth seekers, and welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Thursday, May the 9th, 2024. On the show tonight, some sad news for you. Rex Murphy, the staunchly conservative and sense-making columnist and former television show host. I think he was on CBC, if I'm not mistaken, back when they knew what journalism was. Rex Murphy has passed away today at the age of 77. More on that coming up in just a second. I ran a video last night on a guy called Albert Pike, and I ran it in the extension on the website, shadowdavis.com. And I thought I would share it with you on the main show tonight on all of the social media because it was so very fascinating. It came to me via Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. This is the guy who looks like the hillbilly from the Bugs Bunny cartoons. Swing your partner around. Remember that guy? All right, the long beard, the hat. Looks like a Hutterite, actually, except for the fact that I think he has a mustache and a beard. There's a big, long, white beard. Anyway, he brought this guy up on a video from, I'm going to say about a week ago, and somebody sent it to me, and I watched it, and I went, Albert Pike? I've never heard of this guy. And then you read about this guy, and he is the only Confederate luminary, at least up until a couple of years ago, before all of the Antifas tore the statues down, who had a statue up in Washington, D.C. Why? Why would this guy have a statue up when all of the other big names in the Confederacy were torn down years and years, decades ago even? But Albert Pike? Had you ever heard of this guy's name before, Albert Pike? You've watched enough movies, I'm sure, regarding the history of the United States and the Civil War and all of that. Albert Pike, does that name ring a bell to you at all? Anybody? Aside from what you may have seen with Off Grid, Doug and Stacy, and all of the other videos you may have consumed in the past 3 or 4 years, to me, this was news. And so we're going to explain who this guy was and what he did. The letter he wrote as a 33rd level Mason back in 1871. It was so incredibly fascinating, and it seems to be what is unfolding right in front of our faces today. You could take it to some normie out there and say, look, see? And they'd go, yeah, that's fake, man. That's not real. And it may be, even though this letter was supposed to be displayed in a museum in Boston up until 1977. I don't know if that's true or not either. I did some research on this today, and I found a lot of interesting stuff. Albert Pike. So that story is coming up in just a couple of minutes. There was a big pro-life march in Ottawa today, and we've got video of that we're going to play for you in just a couple of minutes. The Shadow at Night live stream is brought to you by Canada Nano Silver, CanadaNanoSilver.ca. Free shipping with a product order of over $250 or exactly $250. And maybe Kevin and Anna will give you a free pass if you make an order of $249. I don't know. You'd have to talk to them. You can contact them, by the way, on the contact tab here at CanadaNanoSilver.ca. This toothpaste I love so much comes in 3 different flavors. There's spearmint, there is cinnamon, and there's bubbleberry for the kids. It's naturally whitening. It helps keep your teeth clean. Triple action nano silver, Silverceutical technology. Silverceuticals made from only the highest quality ingredients. This unique toothpaste is kid safe, uses powerful natural ingredients. Triple action nano silver helps keep your teeth clean and promotes healthy teeth and gums. And then it keeps working after you brush with the above ground Mind Coral Calcium, helping to scrub and remineralize your teeth. This product and so many more awesome products available at CanadaNanoSilver.ca. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.ca. And again, free shipping with a product order of $250 or more. All right, let's go say some hellos. Yeah, there's the story about Rex Murphy from the National Post, which we'll get to in just a second. Hello, hello, hello. Who's watching tonight? Dan is watching tonight on Facebook. Hello, Dan. How are you? Wendy is watching in Kingston, Ontario. Hello, Mireille, watching in Lacombe. Lynn is watching in McCarrow, Northeastern Ontario, she says. Melissa, hello, in Cortese. Sophie is watching from somewhere in sunny Manitoba. Sally is watching in St. Francis Xavier or St. Francois, depending on whether or not you're Francois, Francophone. Debbie is watching in Oak Bank. Hello, Carla in Calgary. Janet's watching in Aurelia. JJ is watching tonight. Waterton Park, Alberta. Hello, Roberta in Moncton, New Brunswick. Doreen is watching in Brandon tonight. Michael is in Brampton. Linda's watching in Trenton. Hello, Chuck in Kamloops. By the way, we have something for you coming up. Something about those bodies, those alleged bodies, 215 bodies buried at that residential school in Kamloops, the former residential school. Sorry. And about the apology the BC NDP government's about to make to First Nations there, and how much money the federal government has spent of our dollars on this investigation, even though no excavation has ever been started to see if they could find the bodies. They've just used the ground-penetrating radar and come up with nothing. Who else is watching tonight? Let's see. Brenda's in Medicine Hat, and I'm just going to go random here. Justin, hello. Yeah, Dark Cult for sure. Will's watching. What's up? All right, if you guys are watching on Facebook, like and share, please. Let's get this out there to as many as we possibly can. If you're watching on X, same deal. Repost and a heart, please. On Rumble. Ooh, man. Oh, I don't even know where to begin here. I'm doing it different tonight, you guys, because Rumble is a massive space hog. And it takes up so much of my screen that I have to do it on my phone. So let's see who's watching on Rumble. I can't even tell. Well, you know what? If you're watching on Rumble tonight, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to thumb it up. That's a big thing for Rumble. And, of course, if you want to share from Rumble, I don't mind that. And, by the way, if you're not following on Rumble, you guys got to follow. Rumble just got banned in Russia for political reasons. We'll get to that story later on. But if you're not following on Rumble, you watch on Facebook. Facebook is going to take this show down. It's only a matter of time. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. So if you want to keep watching the show, you'd better get used to other platforms. X is a good one. I do it on YouTube sometimes. I've been doing it on YouTube lately just to see what's going to happen. There's Twitch. I don't think you'd like Twitch. There's Telegram. Yeah, I stream the show live on Telegram on the Shadow at Night page there. And, of course, the website, shadowdavis.com. That's the only place you can go to get the entire show, the extension, which continues after 9 o'clock Central each night. So, Rumble, you highlight the URL by pushing because I haven't got it up on the screen, it's not automatically coming to me. Isn't that something funny? You figure it would be involuntary by now. So you hit the share button beneath the screen that highlights the URL above the screen. From there, you can copy and paste to your favorite destination, social media, email, or group. All right, let's get to the stuff tonight. Rex Murphy has passed away. Underboob Jess, who I follow on X. I like her. She's a smart mouth. Anyway. She said, yeah, this stings a little bit hearing this news. I'd say it stings a lot more than a little bit. This guy was one of the key voices just trying to make sense of all of this and calling out all the crap. And now he's gone. He had a battle with cancer. 77 years old he was. This just came in at about 5 o'clock Central Time this afternoon. Even while he battled his illness, Murphy still filed in recent months. His latest story, his latest column came out just yesterday, I believe. Writing about Hamas and Christmas and interviewing Pierre Poilievre with his distinctive panache. There he is, Rex Murphy, passed away at the age of 77. People have been asking me about Kickley. We're going to get to that in just a second. I want to remind you guys, people are asking me. They're emailing or they're messaging me on Facebook or wherever they're getting a hold of me. And they're asking, Shadow, I notice that you haven't had many guests this past week or so. And I say, you're right about that. It's been a scheduling nightmare getting people together. But next week, I think I'm full already. Monday night we'll get to in just a second. I am trying to schedule Eloise Bois on the show. She's a YouTuber with a channel called Elo Wants to Know. She talks about controversial things on her channel. She got banned. And now Eloise is suing YouTube, suing Google for just that, banning her for no good reason. So she and I have been going back and forth for the past day or so, and I'm going to schedule her for an interview at some point next week. That should be a good one. Also, I made contact today with Whitney Webb. You guys have probably seen her on Redacted or some other big, huge American show. Whitney and I will try and schedule an interview for some point next week. I'm not exactly sure what day that's going to be, but it'll be interesting to get her perspective when she agrees to come on. Whitney Webb, independent investigative journalist, I can't say will yet, but should be joining the show at some point soon. And Pfizer whistleblower Melissa McAtee is confirmed for Monday night. Here she is talking about Luciferase, which is very appropriately named.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa McAtee, also known as Melissa Strickler, the Pfizer whistleblower from Project Veritas. I wanted to make a short TikTok explaining something that I feel like isn't being made very clear in my interviews. I worked at Pfizer for almost 10 years, 5 years as a quality auditor. Here is my driver's license before I got married and changed my last name. Here is my work badge with my pre-marriage name. Yes, I was 19 in that photo, by the way. Here is the backside to show that it is Pfizer property and my CDA sticker, which proves that I can deal with controlled drugs. Here's an extremely embarrassing photo of me at work wearing that badge. Here is a product that has the same exact lid color, vial size, and is liquid. It is on the exact same light test table that I always light tested at as a quality auditor. Normal looking solution. Almost all product looks like this. And here is the hokey pokey that they're mandating to people. Notice anything funny about that solution? It's glowing. Here is another product, same size vial, different color lid, same table to show you that it does not impact the color or the glowing, because there isn't any. This is what they were advertising the vaccine looked like. Obviously now they have real pictures out there, but this was what they were advertising it looked like when I took this photo. Little fun fact, here was our shoelaces at work. If you ignore the reflection of my glove here, you can see that this solution is almost totally clear with a very slight tint of yellow on the white side. Here's another one. And here's a really clear image to show you how clear it is. But oop, it goes over to the black side. Same table, same light, same surroundings, same vial. And it changes when it goes in front of the black background. It's glowing. Another product. Same table, same light. Look how clear it is. Looks like water. Here's another product on the black side to show that it remains clear. And here it is on the white to show that it stays the same. I was taking a picture of some particulate matter there. You can see it. Here is how normal 3 milliliter vials have their labels placed. See the spaces? It's centered on the vial and has quite a bit of space in case we need to light test it after it's been labeled. But here's how low they were placing the labels on this particular hokey pokey so that you can't see the solution. Another fun fact that a lot of people don't know is that Pfizer manufactures remdesivir. Here is a zoomed in picture to show the name remdesivir in the code. Remdesivir also looked kind of funny. It kind of glittered and sparkled when it was reconstituted because it was in a lyophilized cake. Here is a lyophilized cake, or what we called a lyo product. And here is a picture of the containers that the product was shipped out in. Do your own homework on it.
Melissa McAtee, Pfizer whistleblower, joins the show on Monday night. I cannot wait for that episode. By the way, for you All Access subscribers, yes, we do a show on Sunday night starting at 8 o'clock. That's for you guys only. So if you're not doing anything else, you might want to join shadowdavis.com Sunday night for an All Access episode. I may or may not have a special guest coming up on Sunday night. Speaking of that Luciferase that we've heard is an ingredient in this formula. This is Dr. Christine Northrup talking about just that. And is it already affecting the vaccinated?
All right. So there is Luciferase, SM102, that can track you. A friend just reported she had one of those fake vaccine slave passports and went through the thing at the airport for an international flight. What they said to her is, we know you didn't have the vaccine. You know why? Because they got stuff in there to track you. Also, I just learned from Dr. Ryan Cole that in order to get the mRNA into your cells, they needed to change something in your immune system so that it would no longer recognize the fake mRNA, the synthetic mRNA, as an invader. So there's a thing called toll-like receptors. They changed one nucleotide, one, and it then shuts down your innate immunity. And so what we're seeing in medicine is you get the shot and you get shingles comes back up. People who are in remission from cancer are getting cancer. It is overwhelming. Okay, they also contain kidney fetal DNA, optic nerve, or I think it's something from the eye of an aborted fetus and something from the lung of an aborted fetus.
There you go.
Also contains polyethylene glycol. 70% of people are allergic to it, so it creates anaphylaxis. The other thing that they have is polysorbate 80. This is an emulsifier to get things across the blood-brain barrier that the blood-brain barrier given to you by God is supposed to keep out. They also contain spions. This is magnifection, magnetic iron oxide particles. We have discovered in our 5 docs.
They're trying to kill us.
Tenpenny, Larry Pilevsky, Carrie Made, Lee Merritt. We have discovered entire textbooks on magnifection we didn't even know existed. This has been in the works for decades. This vaccine is the final kill shot for humanity. I said this last fall. What is this thing? It is a murder weapon. There's also the heavy metals. There's
I want to say this because what's happening right now is if this type of tracing material is inside of us, now we got the kids wearing the mask
to lower immunity so that they get sick. That's the whole thing. These will lower their immunity. They increase, they dehumanize us.
Luciferase, hey? You know, I've had problems putting all of this together, you guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's been 4 years now, and this is the first I heard of any of this nonsense going on. Had to do with some occulty stuff. I didn't dismiss it out of hand because I'm a critical thinker like you, and so I thought about it for a while, and it was all too much at that point. But it was like being kicked in the testicles when I first heard it, I'll tell you that. And so since then, I don't always think about it because I can't. Because how can you live your life like that? But when you put things together and you start seeing the connections between all of this stuff, it's only the next logical step into what's really going on. Now, if you play a video like that, even from formerly the most highly respected medical professionals in the world, or some of them, they won't believe it. They'll think you're a crackpot. They'll think that they are crackpots. And that's an interesting cognitive dissonance, don't you think? I mean, if you put a lab coat on these people, and maybe they should wear lab coats when they're doing these discussions in front of audiences to give them that credibility. You can't just say something, you have to actually show it. I'm Dr. Lee Merritt. Wait a minute. I've got my white smock on. Now, I'm Dr. Lee Merritt. Oh, it's a doctor, a scientist. That's the way our brains work. For example, if you were sitting in a doctor's office waiting for him or her to come in, and they came in wearing flip-flops, shorts, and a Hawaiian shirt, would you take them seriously? Would you want their diagnosis? I'd go, no, not unless I'd known them for a very long time. I'd say, is there a real doctor in the house somewhere, anywhere? Hello, somebody with a tie? That's how our brains operate. Would you take a lawyer seriously who was wearing that same outfit I just described? Probably not. Put a suit on him, different story. And that's how it goes. There's so many disconnects in our thought processes. And these people, they know that there is something going on. They just don't know what it is. but they know there's something. And it's only a matter of time before they actually wake up and go, oh. And remember, because it's all connected, it's very easy to bring the point home after that. People have been asking me as well, Kickley, because we had Angela Small on with her presentation on Monday night that she originally gave a couple of months ago. I've been trying to get a hold of Angela to no avail yet, but guess what? We have somebody doing the exact same work up here in Canada. She's been on the show a few times. Her name is Maggie Hope Braun. Of course, I know that you know her. And she started Kickley, which you can find at kickley.squarespace.com. Kickley. This is kicking ICLEI out. ICLEI, of course, is the UN-funded organization that is trying to put globalization policies into every municipal government in the world, including 400 plus municipalities in Canada already. Here's a video that explains what the UN is actually doing. Let's watch.
United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are being implemented at the local level. So what is sustainable development? And is it compatible with the Canadian way of life? The UN's official land policy states that land should not be treated as an ordinary asset, controlled by individuals, and that private land ownership may become a major obstacle in the planning and implementation of development schemes. Sustainable development is defined as development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of future generations. In 1990, the United Nations created ICLEI, the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives. ICLEI's founding documents call for local governments to restructure human society at the local level. That same year, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, prepared the documents to be agreed upon at the Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. That agreement is known as Agenda 21. In 1994, the FCM released a municipal primer, promoting sustainable development through local strategic action. This is a blueprint on implementing Agenda 21 through Canadian municipalities. According to this primer, human activities have caused changes in the global climate, and sustainable development should not be postponed due to a lack of scientific certainty. In 1994, the Government of Canada partnered with ICLEI to fund sustainable development programs, administered through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Local councils are told these programs will be beneficial and adopt them voluntarily. It is important to note that the FCM and the Government of Canada accept no responsibility for these programs, leaving local councils responsible for their adoption and implementation. Therefore, we endeavor to educate our communities and councils on the origins, aims, rationales, and disadvantages of these programs. For example, there are currently over 400 municipalities voluntarily participating in the FCM ICLEI Partners for Climate Protection program. Aimed at achieving net zero, this program follows a 5-milestone framework that includes conducting an in-depth corporate and community greenhouse gas inventory and forecast, setting reduction targets of 45% by 2030 and 100% by 2050. Then developing local action plans, implementing the plan, and monitoring progress. At ICLEI, we recognize that most Canadians care deeply about protecting our natural environment. Therefore, we are committed to addressing the theory of climate catastrophe in a calm and balanced manner, and supporting our position with generally accepted science, statistics, and peer-reviewed studies. Sustainable development programs may negatively impact the Canadian way of life, restricting property rights and driving future population growth to selected settlement areas, impacting single-family homes, family-owned farms, individual travel choices, energy security, small-town growth, and the urban crisis. Considering that these programs are voluntary and that they redirect public funds and assets to corporate and foreign investors, as well as augment the duties of local administrators and impose limits on local councils' decision-making options and public feedback, we recommend that Canadian municipal and First Nations councils respectfully withdraw from participating in these programs. Does civic engagement work? Starting June 26, 2023, delegations in Peterborough, Ontario, and surrounding townships led to nationwide awareness of the local implementation and disadvantages of UN directive programs. This grassroots movement led to the delay of a UN-driven official plan, serving as a powerful reminder that Canadians can effectively resist unwanted policies at the local level, instilling a sense of empowerment and agency. Our goal is to safeguard the Canadian way of life while preserving our local council's authority to represent public over global interests. To achieve this, Canadians are encouraged to endorse our recommendations, join the network, share this message, support our work, learn more, and initiate community action plans. Through nationwide civic engagement, we will endeavor to preserve the Canadian way of life for future generations. Learn more at kickley.ca.
All right. So since then, since June of last year, Maggie Hope Braun has had some tremendous successes in sending delegations, including herself, out to municipal city councils and telling them about this. Believe it or not, from what she said the last time she was on, if you missed that, she said that these councilors don't even realize what's going on in their own municipalities. That work has been left mostly up to bureaucrats. And yeah, there's some of the lefty Marxist councilors and school trustees that know what's going on, but ultimately, most of them have been left in the dark because they don't need to know. And they'll sign the papers just like Colonel Blake used to sign when Radar handed him a big pile of papers back in MASH, if you remember that. Just sign, sir. Yeah, okay, Radar, whatever, blah, 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 blah. It's a 48-hour pass for Hawkeye and BJ to go get drunk in Tokyo. Well, in this case, it's not just a 48-hour pass. It's pretty much changing our way of life. And because it's such a big thing, if you walk up to somebody and tell them, by the way, our way of life is going to be gone soon, just so you're aware, you're going to be living in a 600 square foot apartment building. Maybe you'll have a balcony, maybe you won't, depending on your social credit score. Maybe you'll have a job, maybe you won't, depending on what AI says you can and can't do. Why are you kidding me? Come on. That's not happening. Yes. Yes. And remember, it's Agenda 2030. It's May 2024. We've got some things to do. Gather2030.substack.com. That's Maggie's Substack. Gather2030.substack.com. Go there, read her stuff, join up with her. I'm getting messages, guys, from all over the country, people asking, what can we do? What can we do? I believe that by far, more than drag, more than anything else, this by far is the biggest thing that we can do. If we can pick these Ickleys off, one by one by one by one, all across our country, all across the United States, all across the world, then we've got a chance of stopping this. And we've been hearing for quite some time now that it begins at the local level. It starts at the local level. Changing gears here, BC's First Nations to receive formal apology as part of reconciliation. This is from vicnews.com. So Speaker Raj Chouhan of the BC legislature will deliver an official apology on behalf of BC's Legislative Assembly to First Nations across BC, among other measures, as part of a reconciliation action plan. But Wednesday's official ceremony marking the release of the plan also included criticisms about the tone of reconciliation. You guys don't really mean it. Well, political opposition questioned the process in the first place. Speaking at ceremony in the legislature, Chouhan told First Nations leaders from across the province that reconciliation with First Nations is an essential part of the work to make the legislature more reflective of BC's population. The plan tabled yesterday recognizes the need to address historical injustices. Here we go. By acknowledging the past and working to build new relationships with Indigenous peoples based on respect and understanding, in building on work that Chouhan and the Assembly's clerk, Ryan Lloyd, started 4 years ago in consultation with First Nations. The plan includes 7 initial actions: the official apology, a memorial garden recognizing Indian residential school survivors and victims, incorporating Indigenous customs and cultures, implementing consistent practices for Indigenous participation in ceremonies and proceedings. But that journey is not over, Chouhan said. We're just starting. We can only complete that journey if we commit ourselves and we continue to hold our hands together and paddle together. Chief Roseanne Casimir, by the way, of Kamloops to Secwepemc Nation, was among several senior First Nations leaders speaking during the ceremony. This is one of the leading liars regarding the so-called bodies found in Kamloops, which were never found. Like other speakers, she referenced historical injustices which First Nations have suffered since the arrival of Europeans, noting the legislature's responsibility in creating racist colonial laws that tried to destroy us. Your own leaders gave you up, sweetie. Just like what's going on now. Your own leaders gave you up, and they're still giving you up today, 150 years later. This story came out from Western Standard today. No bodies have been found after spending $8 million searching for bodies at Kamloops Residential School. The Department of Crown Indigenous Relations has confirmed significant spending to try and uncover the heartbreaking truth, quote unquote, of potential unmarked graves at the Indian Residential School in Kamloops, British Columbia. However, despite the allocation of $7.9 million for this purpose, no remains have been recovered. There's been no public disclosure of how the funds were utilized. That from Blacklock's reporter. Caroline Grattan, spokesperson for the department, confirmed the allocation of $7.9 million for various endeavors, including field work, record searches, and securing the residential school grounds. However, she redirected inquiries regarding the specifics of initiatives undertaken by the Kamloops and Secwepemc First Nation to the community. While the department has not released financial accounts under the Access to Information Act, the First Nation has also remained tight-lipped about the utilization of the money. People have gone there on their own time, with shovels, trying to dig and find bodies, and they got turned away. They got turned away after being reported to the RCMP. The RCMP showed up and said, "You guys can't do this." In a statement, the First Nations reiterated their focus on the scientific work required, but declined to discuss the $7.9 million. Because you've been spending it on Vegas trips, right? Of course you have. All right, there was a pro-life rally today on Parliament Hill in Ottawa demanding an end to abortion. Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen, well, anytime soon anyhow, in our country. It's a good showing of people. Thousands of people apparently showed up for this rally. And of course, there was a counter protest as well. We have video, and this comes from Daisy Media, who was on scene today. Let's watch.
You say life, bro, bro. When I say bro, you say life, bro, bro. When I say bro, you say life, bro, bro. And why are we doing this? One more time. When I say bro, you say life, bro, bro. When I say bro, you say life, bro, bro. Now everybody together. When I say bro, you say life, bro, bro. When I say bro, you say life, bro, bro. When I say bro, you say life, bro, bro. And why are we doing this?
You know, I'm not big on chants, but I do like the fact that so many people showed up. One of the things that really got me regarding abortion, because up until a few years ago, I really had no position on it, got to be honest. It didn't affect me in any way. And so because of that, I just chose not to think about it, even though I knew it was a very important issue. But now, all these years later, I've come to realize that it's murder. In my opinion, abortion is murder. And one thing that got me was a meme that was going around a few years ago. And that meme was a picture of a fetus in the womb. You know how pregnant women will get those ultrasounds and pictures taken, and, oh, look, here's our baby at 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. And they take that home and they put that picture on the fridge and they show everybody. Not 2 months, maybe 4 months, 5 months. I guess after the first trimester is when it's safe to do that, superstition-wise. Anyway, you take this picture of the fetus home with you. You put it on the fridge. Well, that's your baby. So in this one picture that got my attention, it was a split shot between a fetus in the womb, an 8-year-old kid, and then a 24-year-old man. And it said, as the caption, under each picture, me, Me, still me. Yeah. So if that fetus had been aborted, that 24-year-old man, probably 27 by now, would never have been born. He would never have existed. Isn't that interesting? Back to the video from Ottawa today. I guess I should pull it up. Here it is. All right. So this was the March 27th March for Life. Sorry, at the 27th March for Life at Parliament Hill. Leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, joined pro-abortion counter-protesters for high fives behind fences guarded by parliamentary police services. Let's watch a bit of this one here.
Union flags. Oh, here's Jagmeet Singh. On the other side of the corral.
One of the only pro-life students in my high school. I went to
Very,
very pro-gay.
So you can see him behind me, Jagmeet Singh is addressing the anti-life crowd, I guess you would call them.
Anti-life
Protest
crowd,
behind me, there's a paddock in between us, and Jagmeet Singh has emerged from the House of Commons to address the counter crowd. You can see the size of the crowd here behind me.
Another great job by Chris Dacey of Dacey Media. If you're not following him on Twitter, X, go ahead and do so because he does a great job. Now, this comes from Rebel News. Alexandra Lavoie posted this. I forget this guy's name. I'm sorry, guys. I can't remember his name, but I like him. He's a Rebel News reporter. So, Alexandra says, breaking. A pro-abortion counter-protester goes topless while we interview a lady in opposition to the pro-life rally here on Parliament Hill. So Rebel News was there. This is only 22 seconds, and if the sight of a topless woman offends you, I'm sorry, but I'm going to play this anyway. So turn away, close your eyes for the next 22 seconds. Here we go.
So that people they speak with, in this case me with you, are not surprised by where I'm coming from. I think we should have transparency and disclosure of ideas.
We can't hear him, but that doesn't really matter. Like, what is she doing? What's going on
Not
here?
this faux pretense of objectivity. So that people
All right, let me ask you a question. The word abortion, what does that mean to you? Abortion. If you take it out of the context of pro-life, pro-choice, abortion, a hideous abomination, right? People forget the actual definition of words sometimes, and they do mean something. And these people are all about destroying life. That's ultimately what it is. Left-wing corporate media hard at work today, though. This is a news piece that was culled together from several different posts on X today. Pierre Poilievre facing election storm. Oh, no. So this is not necessarily Marxist corporate media. This is just a bunch of Marxists putting together a story on X. In the lead up to Canada's 2024 elections, political tensions are running high as the Conservative Party, led by Pierre Poilievre, faced criticism over its stance on women's rights, healthcare, and economic policies. I'm sorry? What? The Liberals and now the NDP are trying to make this an issue, even though it has not been brought up once by the Conservatives. And as a matter of fact, Michelle Ferrari did a great job shutting down Homer Simpson in Parliament the other day. I played that video for you the other night. It was absolutely fantastic. If you want somebody from your side to talk about these things, put up a woman. Don't mansplain to me. I didn't like the at the end. It was very daytime talk show, very viewy to me. kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but I liked her making her point so strongly like that, looking right in his face, looking right in the camera, and saying those words. The liberals must be desperate and losing badly if they have to bring up abortion. Here's what Marxist corporate media, CTV, had to say about this today.
Several thousand people demonstrated against abortion rights today in Ottawa. The NDP is concerned conservatives will use the protest to push for a rollback.
First thing out of her mouth, almost. The NDP is concerned that the conservatives are going to use, oh, really? Why didn't you talk to the people who went to the pro-life march and see what they had to say first? That's what the story's about, isn't it?
Back of rights. CTV's Judy Trin has more on that story.
Families, religious groups, and students bussed in from Catholic high schools and private Christian ones showed up to support the annual March for Life. Their goal? To push for a law banning abortion.
To continuously be a presence here on Parliament Hill to call our MPs, our parliamentarians, and politicians across the country to secure full legal protection for the preborn.
Get your laws off of my sister! In a competing rally, separated by a buffer zone, the New Democrats warned that a woman's right to choose was being threatened by Pierre Poilievre. The Conservatives voted against a pharmacare bill championed by the NDP that would provide free birth control pills and IUDs to 9 million women.
They have showed it through their votes that they do not support reproductive rights, and allowing MPs on a regular basis to stand in the House of Commons and push an anti-choice agenda.
Earlier this week, an Alberta MP tabled a petition calling for a law to stop abortions.
These Canadians are concerned about the nearly 100,000 preborn children who die every year since the Morgentaler decision.
They have been trying very hard to label preborn as rhetoric, right-wing extremist rhetoric in order to normalize pro-life, if you can believe it. Now, by the way, you should know, CTV doesn't tell you this, that this is a private member's bill and has zero chance of passing. Sadly, it is a political loser in Canada, abortion rights right now. It's our job to go out and tell people what the hell is going on when it comes to abortion. And I think there's a lot of people out there like I used to be regarding this. They're scared to even think about it. All right, it doesn't affect me. I don't care. Whatever. But I will tell you this, and I've told you this before. And the women I've dated had long-term relationships with, the ones who have had abortions, and there were a few, all regretted it and said they had nightmares about it, even 10, 15, or 20 years later. It's something you never get over because you know that you're doing the wrong thing. And here's a study that came out last summer that shows 60% of women regret their decision to abort. 60, not 16. 60%. When faced with the question, most women would rather not have aborted, and most experience feelings of sadness, guilt, and regret after the fact. These are the results of a study published last May, a year ago, in the journal Curious, a periodical of the prestigious science publishing company Springer Nature Group, conducted by David C. Reardon of the Elliott Institute in St. Peters, Missouri, Catherine A. Rafferty of the University of Iowa at Ames, and Tessa Longbonds of the Charlotte Lozier Institute in Arlington, Virginia. The study found that 60% of women who had abortions would have preferred not to have, and that these women experienced negative emotional and mental sequelae connected with the abortion. 60% reported they would have preferred to give birth if they'd received more support from others and had more financial security. Always comes down to the money, doesn't it? And by the way, there's a lot of really good people out there who can't have children who are on lists to adopt. I am adopted. And I'm sure back then, my 16-year-old natural mother probably considered aborting me, and thank goodness she didn't. Of the 226 women surveyed who had abortions, 33% identified the abortion as wanted, 43% as accepted but inconsistent with their values and preferences, and 24% considered the abortion unwanted or coerced. There you go. All right, guys, I want to get into this before we hit the 9 o'clock hour central. This is something we talked about last night and played the off-grid with Doug and Stacy video on this, so I give them credit for uncovering this, and maybe they heard it from another independent media source, but I'm going to read this to you. It's very interesting and quite possibly illuminating, depending on how far the rabbit hole you choose to go down. 3 world wars. Who was Albert Pike? Who was Albert Pike? Very few. I'm going to read this whole thing because it's very fascinating. You may find the first part of this a little bit boring, but it does give us background on who this guy was, and that's kind of important here. Very few outsiders know about the intimate plans of Albert Pike and the architects of the New World Order. Right away, it grabs you, at least it does me. In the 19th century, Albert Pike established a framework for bringing about the New World Order. Based on a vision revealed to him, Albert Pike wrote a blueprint of events that would play themselves out in the 20th century, with even more of these events yet to come. It's the blueprint which we believe unseen leaders are following today, knowingly or not, to engineer the planned third and final war. About Albert Pike. He was born December 29th, 1809 in Boston, was the oldest of 6 kids, born to Benjamin and Sarah Andrews Pike. He studied at Harvard, later served as a brigadier general in the Confederate Army after the Civil War. Pike was found guilty of treason and jailed, only to be pardoned by fellow Freemason President Andrew Johnson, April 22nd, 1866, who met with him the next day at the White House. On June 20th, 1867, Scottish Rite officials conferred upon Johnson the 4th to 32nd Freemasonry degrees, and he later went to Boston to dedicate a Masonic temple. 32nd degree means nothing. 33rd is everything, from what I understand. Pike was said to be a genius, able to read and write in 16 different languages, although we cannot find a record anywhere of what those languages were. In addition, he is widely accused of plagiarism, so take with a pinch of salt. At various stages of his life, he was a poet, philosopher, frontiersman, soldier, humanitarian, philanthropist, 33rd degree Mason. He was one of the founding fathers and head of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, being the Grand Commander of North American Freemasonry from 1859, and retained that position until his death in 1891. In 1869, he was the top leader in the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Incidentally, Freemasonry itself is a fascinating subject, and the writer here could devote an entire website to it. Simon Gray, a Freemason, has compiled a stunning amount of information on Freemasonry that the writer recommends for anyone who wants to learn more about it. Pike was said to be a Satanist who indulged in the occult, and he apparently possessed a bracelet which he used to summon Lucifer, with whom he had constant communication. He was the Grand Master of a Luciferian group known as the Order of the Palladium, or Sovereign Council of Wisdom, which had been founded in Paris in 1737. Palladism had been brought to Greece from Egypt by Pythagoras in the 5th century, and it was this cult of Satan that was introduced to the inner circle of the Masonic lodges. It was aligned with the Palladium of the Templars. In 1801, Isaac Long, a Jew, brought a statue of Baphomet, Satan, to Charleston, South Carolina, where he helped to establish the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. Long apparently chose Charleston because it was geographically located on the 33rd parallel of latitude. Incidentally, so is Baghdad. And this council is considered to be the Mother Supreme Council of all Masonic lodges of the world. Pike was Long's successor, and he changed the name of the order to the New and Reformed Palladian Rite, or Reformed Palladium. The order contained 2 degrees. Number 1, Adolf, or brother, and number 2, companion of Ulysses, or companion of Penelope. Pike's right-hand man was Phileas Wilder from Switzerland, who was a former Lutheran minister, a Masonic leader, occultist, and spiritualist. Pike was also working closely with Giuseppe Mazzini of Italy, who was a 33rd Mason, 33rd degree Mason, who founded the Mafia in 1860. Together with Mazzini, Lord Henry Palmerston of England, another 33rd degree, and Otto von Bismarck of Germany, another 33rd degree, Albert Pike intended to use the Palladium rite to create a satanic umbrella group that would tie all Masonic groups together. Albert Pike died April 2nd, 1891, was buried in Oak Hill Cemetery, although the corpse of Pike currently lies in the headquarters of the Council of the 33rd Degree of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in Washington. He requested to be cremated, and he didn't have his wishes carried out. So we don't need to read any more of that. We're going to go to the three wars here. You guys know who he is. He wrote a letter to this Giuseppe dude in 1871 after receiving a vision, which he described in this letter he wrote to Mazzini, dated August 15th, 1871. This letter graphically outlined plans for 3 world wars that were seen as necessary to bring about the one world order. And we can marvel at how accurately it's predicted events that have already taken place. Here's the letter. It's commonly believed fallacy that for a short time the Pike letter to Mazzini was on display in the British Museum Library in London, and it was copied by William Guy Carr, former intelligence officer in the Royal Canadian Navy. The British Library has confirmed in writing to this writer that such a document has never been in their possession. Furthermore, in Carr's book, Carr includes the following footnote. The keeper of manuscripts recently informed the author this letter is not catalogued in the British Museum Library. It seems strange that a man of Cardinal Rodriguez's knowledge should have said that it was in 1925. It appeared that Carr learned about this letter from Cardinal Cairo Y. Rodriguez of Santiago, Chile, who wrote The Mystery of Freemasonry Unveiled. To date, no conclusive proof exists to show this letter was ever written. Nevertheless, the letter is widely quoted and the topic of much discussion. Following are apparently extracts from the letter showing how 3 world wars have been planned for many generations. This is the alarming part. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agentur, the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires, will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. Step 1. Now, if this letter was written in 1871, and it is in fact real, that war came 35 years later, 45 years later, in 1914. Students of history will recognize the political alliances of England on one side, Germany on the other, forged between 1871 and 1898 by Otto von Bismarck, co-conspirator of Albert Pike, were instrumental in bringing about the First World War. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. Guess what happened right after World War II? During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would then be restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Once again, I mean, are they following a plan that is centuries old here? Makes you think, doesn't it? After the Second World War, communism was made strong enough to begin taking over weaker governments. In 1945, at the Potsdam Conference between Truman, Churchill, and Stalin, a large portion of Europe was simply handed to Russia. And on the other side of the world, the aftermath of the war with Japan helped to sweep the tide of communism into China. Readers who argue that the terms Nazism and Zionism were not known in 1871 should remember that the Illuminati invented both of these movements. In addition, Communism as an ideology and as a coined phrase originates in France during the Revolution. In 1785, Restif coined the phrase 4 years before revolution broke out. Restif and Babeuf, in turn, were influenced by Rousseau, as was the most famous conspirator of them all, Adam Weishaupt. Now, this is the one that could be unfolding right in front of our faces right now. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists, the people that want to burn everything down, and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Take this for what you will, guys. I mean, I'm sure some of you watching this right now are going, yeah, whatever. I'm sure you are. Some of you are. Some of you are going, oh my God. Some of you are going, I knew it. I knew this. I knew this for years already. Shadow, what's the matter with you? You're only finding this out now? Since the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, world events, and in particular in the Middle East, show a growing unrest and instability between modern Zionism and the Arabic world. This is completely in line with the call for a third world war to be fought between the two and their allies on both sides. This third world war is still to come, and recent events show us that it may not be far off. I mean, this guy says it's not far off. It may not be far off, but it certainly sounds familiar, doesn't it? Half of Canadians are opposed, half only, are opposed to anti-Israel encampments at Canadian universities, according to Leger. Half of Canadians. Of the 1,519 randomly recruited Canadians surveyed from May 3rd to 5th, 48% said they oppose the encampments, 32% said they strongly oppose the encampments, 16% said they somewhat oppose the encampments. Around 1/3 support the campers, and another 21% said they don't know how they feel. I don't know. Though only 11% of those surveyed said they strongly supported the protests. And then they break it down to age, sex, political affiliation, blah, 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 blah. So what's coming up? When is this going to be? Well, let's see. We're on Agenda 2030, so it's only a matter of time. And this is what we've heard before. I think Wayne Peters actually came out and said, this is what they're going to do. They're going to have another world war. They're going to make everybody so desperate for something good that when something good or looks good finally comes along, we will just flock to it. You're the one. You're the chosen one. Save us from this misery, heartache, and death. And most people, sadly, may go along with it. Our job is to wake people up and fight back. That's what our job is. That's it. That's all. Find a way, you guys. That's it for the show tonight on the socials. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I will be back on Monday night for you social media viewers at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. For those of you who are all access members at shadowdavis.com, the show continues with the extension in just a couple of minutes. And then, if you're not going to stick around for the extension, we'll be back on Sunday night. Sunday night, don't forget, there's a show on Sunday nights now at 8 o'clock Central. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. And for you guys watching on social media, I'll see you on Monday night. The special guest, that Pfizer whistleblower. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Or in 2 minutes, whichever. And if you're not an all-access member, go to shadowdavis.com right now